USA, Canada, and Mexico are currently the most desired destinations of Africa's top footballing nations. Over the last 7 days, full-capacity crowds shut down stadiums across the continent as the battles for World Cup spots intensified. On this special episode of the FA show you're about to see, it features some of the most glorious moments in African football history. Igamalami Uadelani Folashayo Gurinade, Essi Khadebe, and Brian Mofokeng joins me as we take a look at the hot melting pots of match day 5 and 6 in the World Cup qualifiers and so much more. And by the way, we have the latest on Teboho Mokoena. Stay tuned. You're still watching that show that tells you tantalizing stories about African football as well as testing your football knowledge. On today's show, I want to know if you know how many goals Samuel Eto'o has scored for the indomitable Lions of Cameroon. Of course, I'll be giving you the answer to that question later on the show. But while you wait, let's start the conversation with K1's very own and that football analyst most worried about Mokoena's saga, Essi Khadebe. Essi, I know you're having sleepless nights about Teboho Mokoena and the possibility of the deduction of 3 points.
Between me and you, who's more worried? But nonetheless, quite a worrying factor, frustrating one, if you can put it in that way. Administratively, South Africa has been disappointing in this round of qualifiers. The Mokoena situation shouldn't have happened. FIFA literally sends out probably a message to say, guys, these are the guys that are not going to play your qualifiers, and watch out for that. And they didn't.
Should CAF have sent a notification, for example, just to make sure that everything runs smoothly?
Remember, Adet, now this is a FIFA tournament, and CAF stays away a little bit on this one. FIFA will be the ones that actually take charge in these ones. Hence, I say FIFA will send out a message to the national team to say, this player is not eligible to play. And administratively, South Africa have been lacking. And the 2 yellow cards that they were going to got prior to this.
So the yellow cards came in match day 1 and match day 4.
Yeah.
And we've seen this happen to Nigeria. We've seen it happen to Ethiopia in 2013 when teams are docked points. But SC, where I'm looking, I don't think this is going to affect South Africa much if they deduct 3 points from South Africa in that group. They're just looking like the strongest team in the group so far. And I think they have what it takes to beat Nigeria and to win the rest of their games.
I like the fact that you say you don't think. When we look at the table itself, speaks something different. When you look at where South Africa is sitting currently on 13 points before the final decision that's going to be taken up. Should the decision be taken up, in my opinion, I do believe it's going to be taken. We're going to be sitting on 10 points. That leaves us 2 points behind. That leaves us 2 points in front of Rwanda and Benin.
Yeah.
And you look at that alone, Nigeria will be sniffing and saying, we've got a chance in this one. And with the next round of games, they're going to be pushing. And Rwanda, surely, and Benin will be pushing South Africa. So for me, it's an alarm for South Africa to say, let's raise up our game.
All right, let's talk about South Africa's 2 games that we saw in match day 5 and match day 6. I saw your phone was on throughout. You were happy with what was going on. Essie, what impressed you the most about Hugo Broos tactically?
Look, Hugo Broos is somebody that sticks to his guns. And why I say he sticks to his guns, you look at the team since he started out. Controversially so in terms of how we, the South Africans, looked at it and we said to ourselves, what is this guy doing? Because he came and he said he doesn't want this player, specifically Tembazwane, who was on form at the point. And when I say stick to his guns, he literally did that. He didn't call Tembazwane. He didn't call a guy like Muda, who was probably the best right back in the continent, at that point in time. He kept on mobbing into the team when people were questioning it. And you look at these 2 games, when you go back, it tells you that this is a man that says, if I've got a player that's on form, I'm talking about Rele Mofokeng. Coming into this game.
That was one of the fairy tales of match day 5.
Yeah.
Mofokeng scoring his first senior goal.
And it doesn't feel like he's first, because he's been there with the team, and it tells you that the transition of a player coming from the bench and into the team, it's quite smooth. You look at a Jaden Adams who also scores. It speaks volumes when you look at how Hugo manages his team. And for me, I think he's doing a wonderful job. And I think South Africans are quite happy with Hugo Broos currently.
Yes, I'm happy with Hugo Broos. Also with Mofokeng's celebration, I was trying that in front of the mirror. I still haven't got that dance move right. But moving on, I was going to go on a short break to avoid talking about Nigeria with SC Khadebe, but my producers tell me that there's no running away from what happened against Zimbabwe. Now, where do you think the Super Eagles went wrong? Because they were playing at home. How come the Super Eagles have traditionally struggled in front of their home crowd?
Look, I think when you look at, it's not a matter of in thinking. When you look at the game itself against Zimbabwe, firstly, let's talk about Zimbabwe and what they did on that game. They didn't play a low block, and people look at it and think that Zimbabwe played a low block. It wasn't a low block. Hence, they were troubling so much in terms of the middle field. You look at how they controlled that middle field. And Nigeria literally played a wing kind of play football. You look at Aina, he was always pushing up. It tells you that they literally wanted to use the left flank more than anything else into this game. But I think Zimbabwe brought their A game. Players such as Kamabilia were written off. You look at those kind of players, they come into the national team and they produce such quality.
But I wanted to ask you a tactical question. When Victor Osimhen went off injured, should the coach have brought in a more defensive-minded player and just packed the bus?
Look, it's a question of how do you see defense? Because defense starts from offensive play. You need to hold the ball and attack for you to defend. If you're going to sit back, we're talking about a super house here. We're not talking about any ordinary team. We're talking about a super house that wants to challenge and that wants to push teams. And I don't think that was a wrong decision. That was the right decision. But the question is, were the players amped up for this game? Were they ready to play this game and win it for the nation? It was a full-packed stadium. You look at that alone, it tells you volumes. And I think Eric Chelle, with the controversy around him and the players probably, in my opinion, again, I'll say this to you, the dressing room is becoming an issue for him when I look at it. And I saw in this game when I looked at the bench, the confidence in the players that were sitting on the bench speaks volumes for me.
So instead of the superstar millionaires, should they be looking at local-based players to represent the Super Eagles?
We can look at the tournament holistically before we even talk about Nigeria alone. You look at most of the teams that are playing with local players. South Africa, for one, has a majority of local players that are playing in their team. But then again, the argument is open. You look at a Morocco team that has both European and African players. It then speaks volumes when you look at that.
Oh man, beautiful. In Group D, Cameroon is right behind Cape Verde. Cape Verde is showing that they're more than just a nation that has beautiful women that could play football, really. And in Group E, we're seeing the Atlas Lions of Morocco impressing us all. They haven't lost a single game in Group E. Well, after this break, we're going to be talking about the other groups, and I'm sure you want to see who makes the list of my African diamonds this week. Ungaindao.